Welcome everyone to a new build order tutorial. This time it's for the Protoss, and it's for Protoss versus Protoss. It's an Adept all-in shown to us by Patience. Let us get into it. Rally that probe to the front to build the pylon for your high ground wall. Chrono the nexus. And then rally your probe to the front again to build your gateway on 16. Build your assimilator. Then build your second assimilator. Build your gateway and go ahead and scout. Put one probe into your first gas, rally in the second one, and on your second gas, put two probes in there immediately. Cybernetics core, as soon as the gateway's done. Try and keep your scouting probe alive and also checking for common proxy pylon locations. Fill assimilators 3 out of 3 for the pylon. As soon as your cybernetics core is done, start a stalker, a sentry, and warp gate. Go to pylon on the low ground, preferably, if you think you can get away with it. Then build 2 more sentries. Chrono that warp gate. Get your nexus now. Put down a pylon in proxy. Hallucinate a phoenix to go scout. Chrono warp gate again. Build a robo. And warp gate should be done and transforming immediately into warp gates. Warp in a couple of adepts in proxy. You're probably oversaturated in the main base, so go ahead and transfer probes down. So you're 16 out of 16 on the minerals in the main. Warp in another 2 adepts in proxy. Hallucinate, scout again, start a warp prism and chrono it. Start up that Twilight Council. Start looking for any good shade moments into your opponent's base. If it's there, go for it, even if it's skill a sentry or a couple probes. But keep in mind that you can also just keep them alive if you don't want to worry about them. Start an immortal and go harass with the warp prism, which is whatever adepts you have available. At this point, remember not to get supply blocked. Start up resonating glaives. Another immortal and chrono that. At this point, we had a couple of stalker warp-ins to help deal with the warp prism in this game, but do keep in mind you're going to be wanting a lot of adepts in the future. Keep scouting with hallucinations whenever you can remember. And build 5 gateways around this point whenever you have the minerals to do so. You should have stopped building probes at around 14 out of 16 on that natural. Another immortal, chrono that. Build a couple of sentries. Start placing down extra pylons to get ready for all the warp-ins. Keep scouting your opponents for their defenses and try and do some harassment with the warp prism, if you can. And start to move out to the middle of the map, all while warping in adepts, adepts, and more adepts. You should be using your Warp Prism and Immortals to attack the front at this point, and the entire attack hits at around 7 minutes. And that does it. Let's go on to the build discussion. So the strengths here, you can instantly win like any all-in. There's just potential that your opponent has no idea that it's on the way and has no preparation, or their macro is worse than yours, something like that. Adept Shades give flexibility to the attack, so it's not just jump on top of the army or walk up to the army. You probably have an option to try and go into the main base, split your adepts, target fire sentries, that type of stuff. There's a lot of potential harassment here as you get the Warp Prism pretty early, so whether it's with the adepts or with the double immortal, as Patience showed us, point is, you can do it. It has a safe stalker sentry opener to scout and adapt. So as long as you're hallucinating a phoenix as soon as possible, you'll be seeing a lot of the common, more aggressive openers. Not proxy gateways, but still some of those one-base stargates or third gateways. A well-timed robo for some safety against, again, maybe not the earliest of aggression, but any aggression that might come out on 2 bases or a little later. Weaknesses. If all-in fails, generally you lose the game. As all-ins go, that's generally the saying there. So don't expect to be able to walk out of this one if they have an entire wall and you absolutely do no damage. But it is possible. It can be scouted with lack of natural assimilators that actually happened in the game that was being shown. And that's why Patience's opponent was able to at least get some defenses up. But I do believe the all-in still works, so just keep that in mind. Just because they scout it doesn't mean that they're going to be ready for it. No technology, so primarily there's no archons or disruptors, and there's no upgrades, which all goes back to the whole, if the all-in fails, you generally lose the game. Early game damage can throw off the attack, so we had a pretty clean 7-minute timing. He lost a couple of probes, so he wasn't 16 out of 16 in both mineral lines, but it was still pretty close, and a lot went on. But obviously if you're dealing with a huge aggressive attack and things get weird, you're not going to have that clean-cut timing or nearly as many adepts or something like that. Tips and tricks. Hallucinate a phoenix as soon as possible with first sentry to scout for Stargate, third gateway, what have you. Accommodate with shield battery and mineral line against an early Stargate, plus place your units in it if necessary. An earlier robo, perhaps, if it's really being aggressive. You're not going to want to go for an expansion if you know they're going to try and attack you. Just keep those in mind. Deny scouting of natural with well-placed anti-hallucination squads of sentries and stalkers. You don't really get a lot of stalkers with this build. As I said, he got a couple extra with the Warp Prism harassment, but you certainly can get up to 3, I believe is what he had, to deny some of those hallucinations or just harassments. It's not the worst thing, especially depending on your league, that they scout the natural, because if someone is, let's say, platinum or even diamond, right, they probably won't know what to look for, but if nothing else is going on, you can try and deny the scouting. Use warp prism to harass main while gearing up for the attack. They'll potentially have half their units, or maybe a little bit less, trying to defend against the warp prism that is now going and helping you in the main attack, or in general, will be able to grab a couple of units, thus making them weaker on the main defense. Try to always have a proxy pylon in all PvPs to warp in Adepts. If you watch pro games, you'll notice that, I don't know, maybe 60% or more of PvPs nowadays do have at least one of those pylons in proxy, whether it's kind of one of those fake proxies on the second pylon or a little bit later. You just want to be testing your opponent as much as possible, as much as your APM allows. If all-in doesn't win the game, teching up the disruptors is probably your best bet. You can also go into Archons. You do have access to both those tertiary techs with the Robo and the Twilight Council, but disruptors are going to give you the greater chance of actually making a comeback with how explosive they are. So that just about does it. I hope this build helps you guys in your PvP. Maybe you're a little tired of the same old macro, or you just need a good build to follow along, then this one might be for you. Have fun, guys, and happy StarCrafting.